Long story short, I am not a fan of listings, period, end of story. And let me explain why. I'm not a fan because in the event that you already have buyers for said asset class, right? Said property, the subject property we're talking about. If you already have buyers for it, why on planet Earth am I listing the property for sale?
Right.
There's not any benefit. I don't gain anything. We don't gain anything as brokers if I already have a buyer who's willing to pay the price for it. The only thing you have is that you have something to lose, right? Like if in the event you take a listing saying, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you, you have to keep in mind that you have a big loss possibly, right? Like you promise the seller, right, that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you can't perform. That's a problem. So what I like to
Disaster.
do is I like to do things off market because there's the only thing that I believe that listings allow you to do that off market doesn't is gives you control. And
Right.
obviously we all like control. However, it's not necessary. It's not a requirement in order to sell a lot of real estate. So just keep in mind that what's more important is what we're going to talk about in the next few things here, because the listings it doesn't mean much, right? Like it's not a requirement to sell. It doesn't mean that you're going to sell the property. Like what's more important is that you can negotiate a wonderful price with the seller and good terms with them. Because if you can negotiate good terms, the odds of you selling it are incredibly high. Where
Right.
more brokers are typically the opposite way around, where they're like, I just care that he signs the exclusive,
Right.
regardless of the price.
Which my experience with the guy that I was working with, he was mostly off market, right? So I spent a lot more time kind of learning deal structuring and things like that than actually the listing side of things, which at the same time, I was in hospitality, right? So, I do have a buyer's database for motels
Yep.
and hotels, but as far as the other asset classes, that I'd have to start from scratch,
Well, look,
right?
I'm
And
going to show
so,
you how you can build it really fast.
yeah.
So let me just refresh my screen. Give me 1 minute here. We're going to go to more filters for a second. So this is just Reonomy. There's no filters, no nothing on it. If you want to find a buyer for anything, give me a county that you're working on right now.
Let's go with Broward.
Yeah, Broward County. Okay. Take any asset class. It does not matter. So I'm going to ignore asset class for a moment. Okay. But what I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to owner. Okay. Owner tab includes a phone number. So obviously we can reach out to them. Properties in portfolio. I want to do at least 5. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to sales within the last 2 years. I'm going to
Yeah.
explain all this as like the why in just a moment. I just want to get clear here. And the only other thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to owner. I'm going to include the word. I'm going to include person. Okay, instead of just company, because company might include BlackRock and all these other companies, which is
Yeah.
very difficult to get a hold of. Okay. Now
100%. Yeah.
choose any asset class. Now we have this set up.
I mean, yeah, let's go with motel.
All right, hospitality. 52 properties have sold in the last 2 years. I'm going to go to owners, and this shows me every single person who owns hospitality assets and the biggest people in the market. So I see like the top, let's see here, like this guy, Hussein owns 4, Jonathan owns 4, and just in Broward, and they bought it within the last 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, Adam
He owns
Houston.
90 assets in his portfolio. You can see here that, Joseph here with Weston. I mean, this is with Weston Management, like obviously like they're going to have a lot, but
Yeah,
you can kind of go through this. Like this is going to be your buyers list. Like I always, tell people like, look, the top 50, your first 1 page, you should be reaching out to every single one of them. And there's going to be somewhere between 2 and 10 of these people who are going to be very qualified, good people to build a long-term relationship with. But this is the simplest part of it, right? Like again, there is almost zero search criteria. It's just hospitality. You get clicked person instead of a company. It's easier to get them on the phone. They own at least 5 properties. They have a phone number so you can call them. They bought within the last 2 years, which means they're likely to do it again, especially if they own 5 and they bought one in the last 2 years. Especially that means because they're not worried about the interest rates, right? They'll pay something. They'll pay up right now in your location. So this is where you start for all your buyers, and then you can start at like inching down in either direction, right? Like you can start then hypothetically you can remove person. You hit apply, you're going to have a gajillion more here. You're going to have like Blackstone, like I said, is number 1 with $72 billion in assets under management, as per their portfolio size. Anyways, the point is like you're going to have a lot more on this list, but I wouldn't start with the company.
right.
Start with the person.
I think that pretty much kind of covers a lot of that side of things.
Yep.
I did want to ask something else. So,
Yeah.
how does I did have some experience on the residential side for wholesale. I closed a few deals nationwide, like
Yep.
6 or 7. But then, like I said, they brought me in when they had already sunk like 500K into it. And so, as much as I try to turn it around, I brought in 3 acquisition guys. I trained them up. We were doing great, but just we couldn't produce enough in the small time frame I had. So from a commercial wholesale standpoint, I saw that they're making offers and things like that, and I imagine that it's probably in the training as well on how to do that. But essentially, when they're making offers, when we're making offers, is that on behalf of, for example, maybe your investment company, or am I making offer just kind of just making an
So
offer? How's that work?
what's different is the following. What we're trying to do with our starter offers, which is similar to the wholesaling world, but not exact, okay? What I'm doing is I'm starting the negotiation process with the seller. I'm not expecting them to take my offer. That's not the entire purpose. Like, I'm not running a wholesale shop. Like, that's not what I'm doing here. All I'm trying to use is a starting offer, which you'll learn through the underwriting process, which I'll cover in a minute, okay? Which obviously we do every single week. You can talk about new deals. Like, I can kind of give you a gauge where my head's at. The whole purpose of it is just to start the negotiations as fast as possible to close the sales cycle, because the sales cycle in commercial is so freaking long. So
Yeah.
what brokers do is that they just pitch a listing, and the seller says, I want 20 million. We think it's worth 10. And then these brokers end up getting the seller like, look, would you at least do 18? Maybe get the seller to list it at 18 million, but it's so drastically overpriced and a waste of time.
Yeah, which my broker, I used to work at Apex Capital, and my broker, Miguel, he at one point he was doing that with I think it was his like nephew or something like that. They would put in offers like that. It wasn't something that everybody did, but it was like their team in particular.
Yep.
They would go make an offer, and then from there they would figure out the rest. So
correct. Yeah. So what we do is we send out starter offers on every single lead we generate. Every seller lead we generate, we send an offer. What this does is, again, it starts the negotiation process. Because instead of a broker who, again, is pitching a listing, we bring them 2 to 3 offers within the first 72 hours. Because every time we submit an offer, we're sending a traditional offer, right? Straight up financing. And then we'll send them a seller financing offer as well. So they're going to get 2 offers right away from us, which is 100% done verbally. Okay. The only time we'll send a letter of intent is when they say, hey, can you send that to me for me to review? Okay. Right. Again, I'm underwriting. 100% of all the leads I underwrite, and I tell them what to make an offer at on my team. But it's because all I'm trying to do is sift through the leads to find the motivated sellers and the non-motivated ones, and I can separate it out. Right. Because if let's say a guy wants 20 million, my guy comes to me with all the information that we have. I make an offer at 10. The guy goes, 10's ridiculous. I want 20, or I'm not selling it. Right. But in the same instance, we've made an offer at 10 million. The guy goes, listen, like, I can't do 10, but if you could do 12, let's do a deal. And I didn't do anything other than make him an offer of some sort that I believe is fair. And I got him down $8 million. So that I'm trying to just sift through things to see, like, where do I spend my time? What do I not spend my time on?
Right. Which makes sense. I'm actually, I'm surprised that, have you heard of LexisNexis Public Records?
Yeah, of course.
Do you guys use that on the team?
Or? We pay for other data, but I've heard of it. We've used it. The problem is that it's not fast enough.
Right. Yeah, it's more of an individual. I use that a lot at Apex. That was how we were able to be like kind of targeted, and then everything like that. But got you. So you guys are using on the Reonomy and everything like that.
Look, I can't, it's impossible to be fair. You can't do, the amount of volume that we're doing, it's very difficult to use LexisNexis. It's great when we can't find a number. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. No, I at our brokerage, we had a gentleman who used a bot, and it actually burned through so much, and they had a massive monthly payout that after that they took it away from everybody. So, but anyways, okay, cool. I guess something that does come to mind now is, what's your plan with your coaching program? Kind of where are you going? What do you see in your vision as far as where?
Look, I run a commercial real estate sales team. I run an investment company. I want to build both of those to the moon. I want to have thousands of agents on my team one day, and I want to have a $1 billion plus fund that that owns a lot of real estate. I want those 2 main things. And in order to recruit thousands of people, I will have to be there. I will need to have a huge brand, and people will need to know who the heck I am. Yeah. That's why I do everything content wise. And, again, like, if I wanted to sell more real estate online, I would not be posting the content that's targeted towards commercial real estate agents. That doesn't make any sense.
And so you would say that residential is still like, what percentage of residential would you say is still a large aspect of your business versus commercial at this point?
5% or less.
Gotcha.
My partner runs we run one of the largest in New Jersey, the largest residential teams in the state of New Jersey. So we were number 1 as per Real Trends last year on the residential side. in the entire state of New Jersey. So we're trying to do that with both commercial and residential, and we're just going to run it. Hopefully, one day we'll be the number one in the country.
Yeah,
So
there's a guy up in Jersey that I've been keeping an eye on, David Choi or David
yeah,
Coy.
David's a beast.
Yeah,
But he doesn't do any, he doesn't do brokerage business
yeah, but he's just keeping an eye on things.
for sure.
Okay, cool. As far as underwriting is concerned, I
Let's
mean,
dive into it. So this is not for hotels, but this is, retail or industrial as an example. Just to make it simple, right? Like, and I can share you this spreadsheet here. But I basically take every single deal once we get all the financials after I make an offer on the deal, okay? After they counter our price, and we're in a range where I think we're in a range where we can maybe get a deal done. And I get their leases, I get all the financials. I'm like, okay, now it's time for me to plug it into a spreadsheet. And let's say again the guy wants, it doesn't matter, but let's say $3 million. Okay, I'm gonna plug in my due diligence costs, let's say 25 grand. And then my closing costs for getting a mortgage on 3 million, let's just say it's going to cost me $100,000 between other closing costs, right? I have my loan balances here. Okay, so I'm going to have a 25-year mortgage, on retail, industrial, any other type of commercial asset other than multifamily, or I have a 25-year loan. Let's say I'm going to probably get 7% interest. Maybe right now I can probably get maybe 6.5, depending. Your loan to purchase is going to be 100% dependent on what my debt coverage ratio is, right? So it's like I don't have control. Obviously, the highest you're going to get is 75% LTV or LTP, loan to purchase. Obviously, it just depends on the debt coverage ratio, which we'll dive into in a moment. You do have the option to do IO versus or interest only versus amortization. I always do the amortization because the odds of getting IO on most deals is pretty low. Maybe you get it for a year, but it's not like I use this more when they agree to seller financing. I'll use the IO function here. This will tell you when you have an operating deficit. So as you can clearly see, I'm losing $280,000 a year. So this is a huge. It'll blink red here saying, hey, you need to. This is not a good deal. But we'll come back to that. You can check this box if we're going to do a refinance, and you can structure the refi here. So like when it is, so we do everything in quarters. Like this sheet was built out for private equity, right? Like we use this when we raise money. So we do everything in quarters. Our distributions are quarterly, everything, right? If you want to refinance, you just plug in all your numbers. So your when it's going to happen, your interest rate, the cap rate you're going to refinance at, your loan to value, you're going to refinance that, your term, and your amortization. And it'll spit out, can you do it or not? And right now you can see here that we would be highly negative if we were.
Yeah.
Here is basically this box is what I look at once I plug in the income and expenses, which we'll dive into it afterwards. But I look at this box just to say, what is my future value? So obviously this is income and expenses from another deal. Doesn't make any sense here, but you can see here that it says that the future value is $1 million. So it's like if I was buying this deal and the seller wanted, let's say different case scenario, let's say the seller wanted $1.2 million.
Yeah.
And let's just drop this down to 50 grand. So let's say seller tells you he wants 1.2. You can see here my debt coverage ratio still sucks. We're losing money. We're losing a lot of money, hand over fist. It's saying the future value of this deal is $1 million. So clearly, we're going to notice that like this deal would make very little sense to buy. So after we plug in all the numbers, I quickly just look at this number because if this implied value is, first off, if it's less than what they're asking for, we're probably barking up the wrong tree. But if it's like, let's just say this guy wants, $1 million, it's not enough to say, oh, okay, it's going to be worth $1 million as well in the future. Like that doesn't make any sense. If we go down to 800,000, I start playing around with these numbers and go like, okay, where will it be where my internal rate of return is at like 20, 25, 30%, right? Based off of, now this is only a 3-year hold. So, again, I typically will run it at 20 quarters. So it's almost worth $1.1 million. Let's say 600,000 will probably do it on a purchase price, not 6 million, sorry. 600, you can see the IRR is 24. Our cap rate still sucks. Our debt coverage ratio is still terrible. Again, obviously when we're plugging in our income, you can see on this right now, this was based off of a 2-unit commercial and 3 apartments, so a mixed use property. And it was showing that for whatever reason, that day one cash flow, it was majorly vacant. Let's just say we got rid of all this. And instead of 1,000 square feet, let's say it's 10,000 square feet each for 2 tenants. You can plug in that, let's say each tenant's generating $10 a square foot. And then that would be equals $10 a foot times your 10,000 total square feet, and then divide that by 12. So you can see each tenant in this case would be generating 8,333. If you're, let's say, this is gross rents, so you don't have any reimbursements, but if you had reimbursements, when you go to your expenses, you can see here, like obviously you'd have to plug in whatever your expenses are from the owner. Obviously, any deals you come across, please keep in mind that you can always, during the underwriting trainings on Thursdays, send me the deal beforehand with you putting in your numbers and send me a link to your spreadsheet and I'll play around with it and I'll see like how accurate you are versus what I would have done. So in this instance, what I'll do is like this is like an example of like the seller didn't give you any financials. They're like, oh yeah, my tenants are each paying $10 a square foot gross. Okay. But they didn't give you any expenses. So I take just at the top, it doesn't really matter where you put it, but I just did total income times 35%. Okay, so I took a rough estimate of 35%, but I also kept my 5% for management. So it's estimating my expenses are 42 grand. I come over to my summary.
And LTP, is that the
Loan to purchase, you can say
loan to
LTV,
purchase?
it's the same thing.
Okay, got it. It's okay. Let me ask you this: how involved do you typically get in a deal? So I have a couple things, right? So this guy Dinesh, it's a guy that I sold it to motels. He ended up giving it to another guy. He wanted to rebuild the relationship, came back. Now he's like, I want to list with you, and if I sell, you'll be my buyer's agent. Cool, right? Like, let's say I do go under contract, or another deal that 50 Union Gulf Mile. Let's say I do go under contract. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how involved or how far do you go? Right? Like, is there a limitation where it's like, okay, hey, you know what? Like, at this, I mean, look, at the two deals that I did, right? The guy abandoned me in the middle of the transaction, right? At the end of the day, and it freaking sucked, right? So I had to like make it happen, and glory to God that it even panned out, right? So, and I only give that because of my experience in disposition of residential. So I'm like piecing things together, and you know, able to kind of see it through, right? So I
Yeah,
guess,
look, the short answer is you get involved as you need to. Like just like you did in that deal, I will when necessary. Okay, just like it's the same shit no matter what you do, whether it's resi or commercial. People are wild. Like, dude, like I have attorneys that drive me absolutely fucking insane. I have clients who drive me insane. Like it's the same stuff. It's not like
yeah,
it's the same.
okay.
I have attorneys who don't respond ever. I have clients who don't respond. It's just everything's the same.
No, which that part I'm fine. It's just more like I don't know if there's like a limitation there where it's like, okay, Fabian, this is as far as we go and that's it, right?
I will go to the end of the earth to try to put a deal together.
Yeah,
No
that's
matter what it takes. I will try to do my best.